Hello and welcome to another episode of the Classical Republican. Today we're talking about enlarging the House of Representatives in the United States. So I'm going to talk to you about that. All right, this here are the Grand Councils. We'll get to that in a second. So we need to enlarge the House of Representatives. The original intent of the House of Representatives was a House of the People. And originally, it was supposed to be 30,000 people per representative. And that made it kind of like a grand council. In the old republics, in the Middle Ages, you had these grand councils. And you can see here, this it was part of the mixed regime. You have rule by the one, the few, the many. And the House of Representatives was supposed to be our many. The monarchy is like the presidency. The aristocracy was supposed to be the Senate. Of course, it was supposed to be representing the interests of the state, and not necessarily the people of that state, but the interests of that state. That's why they were chosen by the legislatures. Then you have the House of Representatives, and that was supposed to be our democratic element. Today, we only have 435 members, and we've had that since 1910. Before 1910, it was gradually growing with every census. It was part of reapportionment. So let me talk a little bit more about what we see here. We have on the left the Grand Council Chamber in Venice, and it was supposed to be big enough to house about 3,000 people. At least that's how many members they had, but usually it was about 1,000 to 1,500. On the right, you see in Florence, Italy, you had the council chamber of 500. So in the council chamber of 500, they actually had 1,500 members, but they would rotate 500 every 6 months, I believe. And so that would be their democratic element. And one differentiation was that they weren't really supposed to be representing. They were there to for their own interests, but their own interests were actually representative of pretty much every the more common people in those states. So let's talk about what we currently have. 435. What do you get for that? So go down. These numbers I just pulled off of Wikipedia, but they're accurate. I checked. I copied and pasted. Thank you, Wikipedia, for doing the work. So down at the bottom, okay. So up at the top it says the average population is over 700,000 people per representative. But then look down to the third bullet. At the end, you see Wyoming had 495,000, so almost 500,000. But then you look at Montana, go down to the fourth bullet, and you see Montana had about 1 million people being represented. So there's not a lot of equality there. Yeah, I mean, there's things you could do. It needs to be improved. But one thing you could do is to enlarge the House of Representatives. This will improve oversight, accessibility, and accountability. So oversight. Now, who is this? Why do I have him for this guy for oversight? This guy is Edward Snowden. Edward Snowden is a leaker, and he leaked a whole bunch of things. Him and Julian Assange. But Edward Snowden was an employee, who's contractor with the NSA in the United States of America, and he leaked a whole bunch of information. And one of the most controversial things about the leak was that they were the NSA was spying. Well, technically, they were spying on U.S. citizens. Now, a lot of that information was there was a lot of information. NSA deals with a ton of tons and tons and tons of information, and they don't have people actually going through all that information. It's impossible. They just can't. But they're just grabbing all that information from the internet and all sorts of communications, and they were yeah, and so that's illegal because a lot of that communications was included U.S. citizens, which they are not allowed to look at. So that was the most controversial thing, and President Obama at the time said, "Well, Congress signed off on it," and so the press went to Congress and said, "Why'd you sign off on this?" And everybody said, "Well, we didn't really know about it," and the administration could cite dates and times when they were briefed on it, and so, but Congress kept with the story. Well, I didn't know. It kind of maybe it just flew over my head. I don't know, and and I believe that. I accept that story because Congress has to deal with a lot of information. And there's only 435 in the House of Representatives and 100 in the Senate. So, and it's only a small committee in each house that has to deal with this information. So, I do buy that story. Now, what to do about it? To do about it is expand the House of Representatives. You'll get better oversight. Better quality oversight. Expanding the House will also increase accessibility. Now, this is me with my congressman, and this is I've met him a couple times, and I actually got to have dinner with him on this occasion when this picture was taken, and it was awesome. It was great to meet him and talk to him, but I am the exception. I got to have dinner with him because I'm active in his party, and it was kind of a reward for me. It wasn't just me having a chit chat with my congressman. It was it was kind of a formal occasion. It was a Lincoln Day celebration. A lot of politicians were there, but yeah, I got to sit with my congressman. And this is something that people will live their full lives and never meet their congressman. Lots of people, probably a vast majority of people, never meet their congressman. So, if you have, if they're representing a million people, almost a million people, like in Montana, I mean, what's the point of even meeting people? You're not going to meet a large majority of your constituency and like get a feel for what they want. So I mean what's even the point of Montana congressmen doing that? So if you increase the House of Representatives, you increase accessibility and accountability. Yep, they'll be able to do their job a whole lot better. In the Federalist Papers, we see the point of the House of Representatives being a check on the aristocracy of the Senate. It's supposed to be a mirror. The House of Representatives is supposed to be a mirror of the people. And in the Constitution, Article 1, there's supposed to be one representative for every 30,000 people. That's what it's supposed to be. Now, here's what I'm recommending. Well, we have some options. We can increase to 300,000. Let's go to the bottom. 300,000. Let's swallow this little by little. 300,000 per district. That would mean 1,108 members. Okay. If you want 200,000 per district, 1,662. And that was probably the usual size of the Venetian Grand Council. But if you want to go to 100,000, that'd be 3,324. So almost like the full membership at its largest of the Venetian Grand Council. So it did function. Now, I will concede that maybe we will need to change some parliamentary procedure, and we might have to enlarge the building. I mean, we've done that before. We did it throughout the 19th century. And, perhaps use some more technology. But the Southern Baptist Convention in 2021 had over 17,000 delegates, and they just used Robert's Rules of Order. So it's not undoable. You could have a larger legislature. And this will have the effect of invigorating the democratic element of our mixed regime in the United States of America. Long live the Republic.